Let me ask you something. Have you ever had one of those days where you wake up in a great mood? You feel unstoppable, energized, everything just clicks. And you think to yourself, this is it, I'm on fire today. But then the very next day, you wake up heavy, tired, unmotivated, and suddenly all that momentum you had yesterday, it's gone. Be honest, how many times has your progress been at the mercy of your mood? Here's the truth. If your entire strategy for success is, I'll do it when I feel good, then you're already setting yourself up for failure. Because moods are like weather. Sunny one moment, stormy the next. They're unpredictable. They're temporary. If you build your life on something temporary, how solid can it really be? The people who break through, who build extraordinary lives, don't rely on moods. They rely on strategy. They rely on discipline. They rely on clarity and habits that carry them even when they don't feel like showing up. That's the difference between people who dabble in success and people who own it. So today, I want to challenge you. Don't let a good mood be your only strategy. Because if you listen closely to what I'm about to share with you, you'll discover how to create consistency, power, and progress that doesn't disappear the moment your emotions shift. By the end of this, you'll have tools to build a life that doesn't just rise and fall with your feelings, but keeps moving forward no matter what. Mood is fleeting. Strategy is lasting. Let me break this down for you. Most people live their lives like emotional yo-yos. When they're up, they're all in. When they're down, they pull back, they procrastinate, they make excuses. And that cycle keeps them stuck. They think that the magic formula is waiting for the right mood, the right energy, perfect feeling before they take action. But here's the problem. Your mood is the weakest anchor you could ever tie your future to. Think about it. How many times have you felt amazing, told yourself you'd take action, and then the moment that mood passed, your commitment disappeared? Maybe it was a fitness goal. You got fired up after watching a video or hearing someone else's story. You felt good. You went to the gym for a few days. The first morning you woke up tired, or the first time your schedule got busy, that good mood was gone, and with it, so was your drive. The people who create real change understand this truth. Moods are temporary, but strategy is lasting. Strategy doesn't care how you feel. It's a blueprint. It's a map. It's the thing that will carry you when your feelings fail you. Because they will. I don't care how positive, how motivated, how strong you feel today, there will be a day when you don't want to get out of bed. There will be a day when the weight feels too heavy, when the rejection cuts too deep, when the circumstances around you don't line up. If you've built your entire plan on the shaky ground of, I'll do it when I feel good, then you'll collapse the moment resistance shows up. But if you've got a strategy, something different happens. Strategy is the compass you hold on to when your emotions start spinning out of control. It's the structure that pulls you forward when you'd rather stop. It's what separates people who dabble from people who dominate. Because let's be real, success doesn't care about your mood. The marketplace doesn't care about your mood. Your health doesn't care about your mood. The results only come to the ones who show up, whether they feel like it or not. You know, I've met countless people who tell me, I was doing so well, I was on fire, I felt incredible. And then they pause and say, but then life happened. And right there, I know what the problem is. They were depending on feet of a foundation. Feelings are like sugar highs. They spike. They give you energy for a moment and then they crash. You can't build a long-term life on a sugar high. You need real fuel. You need a plan, a system, something that doesn't fade just because your emotions do. Now, I'm not saying your mood doesn't matter. Of course it does. When you're in a great state, you can produce at a higher level. You can create more. You can connect deeper. The danger is when you confuse your mood with your method. The people who thrive long-term use their mood as fuel, not as their foundation. They say, when I feel good, great, I'll use that energy to accelerate. But when I don't feel good, still follow the plan I designed because my strategy doesn't change just because my feelings did. That's what makes them unstoppable. Think about a pilot flying a plane. Imagine if the only time the pilot followed a flight plan was when the sky was clear and the sun was shining. What happens the moment clouds roll and what happens when turbulence hits? If the pilot ditches the plan every time conditions shift, the plane doesn't land where it's supposed to. The same is true for your life. Your moods are the weather. They change. But the flight plan, the strategy, is what makes sure you get to your destination, no matter what the weather looks like. Here's what's beautiful about strategy. It's not emotional, it's structural. It's about decisions made in advance. It's about designing systems and habits that make success inevitable. It's about asking yourself, what actions, if I repeated them consistently, would guarantee my results, no matter how I feel? Then locking those into your life so deeply that they become non-negotiable. When you have that, your progress no longer depends on whether you feel like it today. It depends on whether you're willing to honor the system you've built. This is where real freedom lies. Most people think freedom is doing whatever you feel like in the moment. That's not freedom, that's chaos. Real freedom comes from creating a structure that supports your goals and protects you from the chaos of your moods. Because then you're not held hostage by your feelings. You've created leverage. You've designed a life that moves forward regardless. Let's bring this into your world. Ask yourself, where in your life are you relying too much on your mood? Is it your health? Do you only eat clean when you're in the mood for it? Do you only move your body when you feel motivated? Is it your business? Do you only show up for calls for clients, for growth when the energy is high? Or maybe it's your relationships. Do you only give your best when you're in a good mood and withhold when you're not? If you're honest, you'll see that everywhere you're inconsistent, it's because you've made your mood the master. But it doesn't have to be that way. You can flip the script. You can take back control by putting strategy above state. When you do that, something powerful happens. Your results no longer rise and fall with your emotions. You become consistent, and consistency compounds. Every day you show up, every day you honor your strategy, you're stacking wins. Those wins build momentum. That momentum creates confidence. And that confidence feeds back into your state. Suddenly, you don't just feel good when life hands you a good mood. You feel good because you know you're moving forward no matter what. That's the shift. Separates those who dabble from those who dominate. One group lets their mood dictate their destiny. The other group lets their strategy dictate their destiny and uses their mood as extra horsepower when it shows up. So hear me. Put your future in the hands of something as fragile as a mood. Build it on the strength of strategy, because your mood will change tomorrow, but your strategy will carry you for a lifetime. Discipline over emotion, that's where the real difference is made. Most people wait for the feeling to come before they take action. They say things like, go to the gym when I feel motivated, or I'll work on my business when I feel inspired. But the truth is, if you live your life waiting for the right emotion to show up, you'll spend most of your life waiting. Emotions are inconsistent. They shift with the weather, with the people around you, with what's happening in the moment. Discipline is what bridges the gap between how you feel and what you know you need to do. When you strip it down, discipline is nothing more than the ability to act independent of your emotions. It's saying, even though I don't feel like doing this right now, I'm still going to do it. And that one decision, repeated over and over, separates success from struggle. Because if you only act when you feel good, you will never break past average. Average is ruled by moods. Excellence is ruled by discipline. Think about the times in your life when you've been proud of yourself. It's rarely the moments when everything felt easy. It's when you did the thing you didn't feel like doing. It's when you pushed yourself past comfort. That's where pride lives. That's where growth lives. Because deep down, know what needs to be done. The problem isn't knowledge, it's execution. And execution doesn't come from moods, it comes from discipline. Let me give you an example. Imagine an athlete training for the Olympics. Do you think they wake up every morning motivated, smiling, ready to give their best? Absolutely not. They wake up sore tired, exhausted, sometimes even doubting themselves. But what makes them world class is not their mood. It's their discipline. They've trained their mind to say, it doesn't matter how I feel right now, I'm getting on the track. I'm lifting the weight, I'm putting in the reps. And because they do it consistently, regardless of emotion, they achieve results that most people can only dream about. Now, the same is true in business, in relationships, in health. The foundation of growth is built on the willingness to do what you said you would do long after the mood you set it in has left you. That's discipline. And discipline creates trust, not just with others, but with yourself. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you strengthen your identity. You start seeing yourself as someone who follows through. And when you see yourself that way, your confidence skyrockets. On the other hand, every time you break a promise to yourself, every time you let your emotions decide for you, you weaken that identity. You start doubting yourself. And the more you doubt yourself, the harder it becomes to act. It's a cycle. That's why discipline is non-negotiable. It's not just about getting things done. It's about building trust with yourself. And trust is power, because when you trust yourself, you stop negotiating with your emotions. You stop asking, do I feel like it? And start saying, this is who I am. This is what I do, no matter how I feel. Now let's be real. Discipline isn't glamorous. It's not flashy. It's not going to give you the rush that motivation does. Motivation is like a spark. It feels exciting. It lights you up in the moment. Discipline is like a fire that never goes out. It burns steadily, quietly, but it's what keeps you warm through the cold seasons. And life will bring you cold seasons. There will be days when you're tired, when you're discouraged, when nothing seems to be working. That's when discipline saves you. That's when discipline makes sure you keep moving forward instead of falling back. The people who achieve extraordinary things aren't necessarily the most talented or the most gifted. They're the most disciplined. They're the ones who built the muscle of showing up again and again, whether they felt like it or not. And here's the good news. Discipline is not something you're born with. It's something you build. Just like a muscle, the more you train it, the stronger it gets. Every time you act in spite of your emotions, you're training discipline. Every time you choose action over excuse, you're getting stronger. But let me warn you, if you don't train discipline, you're training something else. You're training weakness. You're training the habit of listening to your emotions instead of your commitments. And habits compound. The more you give in, the easier it becomes to give in again. The more you push through, the easier it becomes to push through again. You're always training something. The question is, what are you training? And don't confuse discipline with punishment. Discipline isn't about beating yourself up or living a joyless life. Discipline is about freedom. Freedom from being controlled by how you feel. Freedom from the ups and downs that keep most people stuck. Freedom to create consistency and momentum that emotions alone could never give you. Because when you're disciplined, you don't need to wait for motivation to strike. You don't need the perfect mood. You just act. And in acting, you often find that the good mood follows. Action creates emotion, not the other way around. So let's turn this inward for a moment. In your life, are you waiting for the perfect mood before you act? Where have you been negotiating with your feelings instead of holding the line with your commitments? Maybe it's waking up early. Maybe it's making that call. Maybe it's having that difficult conversation. You know what you need to do? You've just been letting your emotions run the show. What would shift if you replaced that with discipline? How much progress would you have made by now if you did it anyway, even when you didn't feel like it? The truth is, discipline is the great equalizer. It doesn't matter where you start. It doesn't matter what natural gifts you have or don't have. Discipline levels the playing field. Because while talent is inconsistent, while moods are inconsistent, discipline is available to anyone willing to train it. And the more disciplined you become, the more powerful you become. Discipline over emotion is not just a principle, it's a way of living. It's the commitment to yourself that no matter what the day brings, no matter how you feel in the moment, you will not let emotions dictate your destiny. Act according to your vision, your standards, your strategy, and when you do, you create a life built on strength instead of chance. So remember this, emotion may spark you, but discipline sustains you. Emotion may inspire you. Discipline transforms you. Emotions are signals, not steering wheels. This is a truth that so many people overlook, and it costs them more than they realize. You see, feelings are powerful. They give you information about what's happening inside you, about what matters to you, about what your body and mind are processing. But here's the problem. Most people take those signals and hand them the wheel of their life. They let their emotions decide what to do, when to act, and how far to go. That is a recipe for inconsistency, disappointment, and frustration. Think about it. How many times have you made a decision based on how you felt in the moment, only to regret it later? Maybe it was anger that led to a harsh word, fear that caused you to back away from an opportunity, or excitement that had you overcommitting to something unsustainable. That's what happens when you let emotions drive. They are messy, they are fleeting, and they are unreliable. They will mislead you if you let them. But if you understand them, read them correctly, and then act consciously, they become one of the most powerful tools in your life. Emotions are signals. That's it. They're a compass pointing toward what matters. There's resistance where there's desire, where there's fear. But a signal is not a command. A signal is information. A car's check engine light tells you something is wrong, but it doesn't drive the car for you. You have to take action based on the signal. That's exactly how emotions work. They tell you what's alive in you, but they don't tell you how to respond. How you respond is where power lies. When you let emotions steer your life at the mercy of whatever you feel in the moment. Happiness today becomes a green light to act, while sadness or frustration tomorrow becomes a stop sign that halts you. But life isn't about waiting for the green lights. Life is about moving forward, even when the road is foggy, even when your emotions are messy. That's how you create results that last. That's how you become someone who doesn't just react to life, but designs it intentionally. Now, you to notice something: the people who achieve greatness are not emotionless. They feel deeply. They experience joy, frustration, excitement, and fear just like anyone else. But the difference is how they use those feelings. They don't let the emotional waves toss them around. They observe the waves, they learn from them, and then they navigate with clarity. Emotions become fuel, not the governor of their actions. They amplify action, they heighten awareness, they sharpen focus, but they don't decide the direction. The strategy decides the direction. Let's bring this closer to home. Think about fear. Fear is a natural signal. It's designed to alert you to potential danger. Most people treat fear as a stop sign. They see fear and they freeze, they quit, they talk themselves out of opportunity. But the most successful people treat fear differently. They acknowledge it, they understand it, and then they act anyway. They use fear as a guidepost, a signal that something important is at stake, a sign that growth is waiting on the other side. They don't let fear drive the car, they let it inform the journey. The same applies to excitement, joy, or enthusiasm. Great mood can energize you, but it shouldn't dictate whether you show up. Excitement is the fuel for acceleration, not the foundation of progress. When you wait for excitement to appear before taking action, you are relying on a force that is temporary. Excitement will come and go, but results, achievement, impact, those are built by consistency, clarity, and conscious choice. Emotions are also wonderful teachers. They reveal your values, your boundaries, your deepest desires. Anger may show you where injustice or misalignment exists. Sadness may reveal what you need to heal or let go. Joy shows you what lights you up, what matters most. But none of these emotions should be the decision maker. If you let them be, you'll always be chasing highs and avoiding lows. You'll live a life dictated by reaction instead of creation. So how do you use emotions correctly? You acknowledge them, you honor them, and then you decide. You decide based on strategy, purpose, principle, not on impulse or mood. When you feel doubt, don't quit. Ask, what is this doubt telling me? How can I move forward despite it? When you feel excitement, don't rush blindly. Ask, how can I harness this energy to support the plan I've committed to? That's how you turn emotions from drivers into tools. Let me give you a metaphor. Imagine you are sailing a boat. Your emotions are the wind. They can blow strong or weak, different directions. If you let the wind steer the boat, you'll drift wherever it blows, helpless and inconsistent. But if you hold the rudder with clarity, adjust the sails, and use the wind to accelerate in the direction you've chosen, suddenly that same wind becomes your ally. You're no longer at its mercy, you're leveraging it. That's the difference between reacting to emotions and using them strategically. The moment you understand that emotions are signals, not steering wheels, you gain enormous power. You stop being reactive. You stop letting highs make you overconfident and lows make you retreat. You start to respond consciously, choosing actions that align with your goals, your strategy, and your vision. That's when your life stops being a roller coaster and starts being a trajectory. That's when results become consistent. That's when momentum compounds. And here's the best part: when you use emotions this way, they don't disappear. They transform. Fear becomes courage. Excitement becomes fuel. Frustration becomes clarity. Sadness becomes insight. Every emotion properly interpreted and consciously directed contributes to your growth. The chaos of emotion becomes a symphony of guidance. You don't suppress emotions, you master them. You don't become cold or robotic. You become deliberate, focused, and unstoppable. So I want you to ask yourself, where in your life are you letting emotions take the wheel? Have you reacted impulsively or avoided action because you didn't feel like it? And where could you start using those same feelings as signals, feedback, insight, fuel, while making your choices based on clarity and purpose? That's the path from being a reactor to being a creator. That's the path from being tossed around by circumstance to leading your own life. Remember this: emotions are information, not instruction. They are guidance, not governance. You treat them as such, you gain freedom, you gain control, you gain the ability to navigate life with power, consistency, and impact. Clarity creates consistency. That's a principle so few people understand, yet it is the secret weapon of every high achiever. You see, most people stumble through life reacting to circumstances, reacting to emotions, reacting to distractions, and then wonder why they never get ahead. They move from one task to the next, idea to the next, one impulse to the next, without any real sense of direction. And of course, they blame themselves, they blame their circumstances, they blame their moods. But the truth is, the problem isn't them or life itself. The problem is a lack of clarity. Clarity is knowing exactly what you want, exactly why you want it, and exactly how you are going to get it. When you have that level of clarity, your actions no longer depend on fleeting feelings or temporary motivation. You don't wake up and ask yourself, do I feel like doing this today? You wake up and say, I know what matters, and I know what must be done to achieve it. I will act no matter how I feel because my path is clear. That is the power of clarity. It transforms indecision into action, confusion into confidence, chaos into momentum. Think about a compass. When you are lost in a forest, the compass doesn't care about the wind, the rain, whether you feel tired or scared. It simply points north. You can choose to follow it or ignore it, but as long as you follow it, you will eventually reach your destination. That's what clarity does in your life. It's a compass that keeps you moving in the right direction, even when distractions, emotions, and uncertainty try to pull you off course. Without it, you drift. With it, you move with purpose. Now, most people think they are clear about what they want, but they're not. They have vague desires, half-formed ideas, or conflicting goals. They say, I want to be successful, but they don't define what success actually looks like. They say, I want to be healthy, but they don't specify what habits or routines will create that health. They say, I want freedom, but they haven't clarified what freedom truly means to them. And because their vision is fuzzy, their actions are inconsistent, and their results are unpredictable. Clarity is what turns vague intentions into consistent execution. Clarity also gives you power over your distractions. In a world where information, notifications, options are constantly pulling you in 100 directions, it's easy to lose focus. You check your phone, scroll social media, respond to every email, and by the end of the day, you've accomplished nothing meaningful. But when you are clear, distractions lose their power. You know what matters. You know what will move the needle. You know what is aligned with your goals. And suddenly, every choice becomes easier because it either serves your clarity or it doesn't. It's a filter that protects your energy and amplifies your results. Consistency doesn't come from willpower alone. It comes from knowing exactly where you're headed. When your destination is unclear, your energy dissipates in 1,000 directions. Your destination is clear, your energy becomes unstoppable. High performers know this. They don't rely on motivation. They don't rely on moods. They rely on clarity. They wake up with a precise vision of the day, the week, the month, and the year. They know what matters most, and they ruthlessly prioritize it. That is what creates the compound effect. That is what transforms small actions into massive results over time. Clarity also gives you confidence. When you are clear about your path, you don't hesitate. You don't second guess yourself. You make decisions quickly, you act decisively, and you move with authority. People are drawn to clarity. They follow it. They trust it. And the universe responds to it. But when you are unclear, you overthink, you procrastinate, you wait for conditions to be perfect or for your emotions to align. And by the time you're ready, the moment has passed. Let me be honest with you. Clarity is not something that magically appears. It is something you create. You sit down, you think deeply about your life, you define what matters, and you commit to it. You write it down, you map it out, you get specific. Not just, I want more money, but exactly how much, by when, what purpose. Not just, I want to be healthy, but exactly what habits you will implement every day to create that health. Not just, I want freedom, but exactly what freedom looks like in your relationships, your finances, your career, your personal growth. The more precise your clarity, the more unstoppable your consistency becomes. And clarity is also about understanding the why behind your goals. It's not enough to know what you want. You have to know why you want it. Why is the fuel that keeps you moving when the journey gets tough. Your why gives purpose to your actions, and purpose trumps mood every time. When you are connected to a compelling why, you don't need to rely on fleeting feelings. You act because your purpose demands it. You move because the mission is bigger than any temporary state of mind. Here's something most people don't realize: that clarity reduces stress. When your path is unclear, every decision feels heavy. Every choice feels overwhelming. You second guess yourself constantly. You feel anxiety about the future, and you waste energy on things that don't matter. But clarity simplifies life. It gives you a roadmap. It gives you confidence. It eliminates doubt. You know exactly where you're going. The noise of life no longer derails you. The distractions no longer control you, and your energy is freed up to create impact rather than spin in confusion. Now imagine combining clarity with the previous keys we've discussed: strategy, discipline, and the understanding that moods are not the master. When you have a clear vision, a concrete strategy, the discipline to act regardless of your emotional state, you become unstoppable. Clarity aligns your actions with your goals. Discipline ensures that you act consistently. Strategy gives you the roadmap. Understanding your emotions ensures you use them as fuel, not as steering wheels. That's a system for creating life-changing results. So I want you to ask yourself, how clear are you about your life? How clear are you about your goals, your purpose, the actions that will take you there? And if you're not clear, what steps will you take today to gain that clarity? Write it down, speak it out, map it out. Make it so precise that there is no question in your mind about what comes next. When you do, consistency becomes inevitable, momentum compounds, and your life begins to change in ways that waiting for motivation or moods could never achieve. Clarity isn't just a tool, it's the foundation of progress. It turns intention into action. It turns potential into performance. It turns chaos into direction. Without it, you drift. With it, you become unstoppable. Build habits that outlast highs and lows. That's the core of sustainable success. Too many people rely on fleeting energy or inspiration to drive their actions. They do well when everything feels perfect, when motivation is high, when the stars seem aligned. But the truth is, life is rarely perfect. Challenges arise. Moods fluctuate. Energy wanes. And if your progress depends solely on these highs, you'll always be inconsistent, always frustrated, always chasing results that slip through your fingers. That's why habits matter. Habits are the backbone of consistency. They don't depend on how you feel in the moment. They create automatic, reliable action that propels you forward regardless of circumstances. Let's be honest, motivation is seductive. It feels amazing. It sparks energy. It makes you believe anything is possible, but it's unreliable. Motivation comes and goes. Some days it's high, some days it's low. You cannot build a life on something that fluctuates like the weather. Habits, on the other hand, like the foundation of a building. Once they are established, they carry weight. They support growth. They operate independently of your mood. They create momentum, and momentum is what compounds over time into extraordinary results. Think about the small actions you repeat daily. Every morning you brush your teeth, right? You don't wait for a burst of motivation to do it. You just do it. It's automatic. That's exactly how the most successful people structure their lives. They take the small, essential actions and embed them into habits that operate consistently, whether they feel like it or not. They don't wait for the perfect mood. They don't rely on bursts of inspiration. They build systems, routines, standards that keep them moving forward day after day. Here's the powerful truth: consistency beats intensity every time. You can work yourself into a frenzy for a few days or a week, but if it's not backed by habits, it will fade. High performers understand this and they leverage it. They know that one great day is not enough. What matters is the compound effect of repeated action. That's why they focus on habits, because habits ensure that even on the days when motivation is low, energy is depleted. When life throws obstacles in the way, progress continues. Small actions repeated consistently turn into massive results over time. And here's where discipline and habits intersect beautifully. Discipline is the ability to act when you don't feel like it. Habits are what make that action automatic. The combination is unstoppable. Discipline ensures that the first steps are taken even when resistance is strong. Habits then make the next steps easier, embedding progress into your daily life until it becomes second nature. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to negotiate with your mood. You simply do it. That's power. That's freedom. That's the difference between those who chase results and those who create them. Let's take a moment to reflect on why so many people fail to build effective habits. Most people try to create too much change at once. They set grand goals without building the daily structures that support them. They want to lose 20 pounds, but they haven't created the habit of moving their body every day. They want to grow their business. They haven't established the discipline of showing up consistently, making calls, following up, or creating content. The result is burnout, frustration, and abandonment of the plan. Habits are not built through intensity. They are built through manageable, repeatable actions that are sustainable over time. Here's the key: start small, but start consistently. Focus on the 1 or 2 habits that will produce the greatest leverage in your life. Make them non-negotiable. Protect them. Repeat them every day, no matter how you feel. Over time, these habits compound, and suddenly your life begins to shift. The difference is almost imperceptible at first, but as the days turn into weeks, and the weeks turn into months, the results are undeniable. That's the magic of habits. They outlast motivation. They outlast moods. They outlast energy levels. They create a baseline of progress that cannot be taken away. And habits aren't just about action. They're about identity. Every habit you adopt is a statement about who you are. Every time you act in alignment with a positive habit, you reinforce the identity of someone who follows through, someone who is disciplined, someone who achieves. And the beauty is identity drives behavior as much as behavior drives identity. You see yourself as the kind of person who takes consistent action. You naturally begin to act in ways that reflect that identity. Habits shape who you become long before the results fully manifest in your external life. The challenge for most people is consistency under pressure. It's easy to maintain habits when everything is smooth, when life is easy. But the true test comes when resistance shows up, when deadlines are tight, when energy is low, obstacles seem insurmountable. That's when habits prove their value. The automatic actions you've built into your life carry you through challenges, ensuring progress even in adversity. That is what separates temporary success from lasting impact. High achievers understand that life will always throw curveballs. Moods will fluctuate. Energy will rise and fall. But habits, they keep you moving forward. They act as a safety net, propulsion system, and a framework for growth. That's why they invest in building habits that are aligned with their vision, that support their strategy, and that are resilient to the ups and downs of life. They don't leave progress to chance. They engineer it. And here's another secret: habits create confidence. Every time you complete a habit, every time you follow through, you reinforce your belief in yourself. You begin to see yourself as capable, reliable, and committed. That confidence feeds momentum, and momentum accelerates results. On the flip side, every time you fail to act, every time you let a habit slide, you erode your confidence. You invite inconsistency. You reinforce the idea that you are at the mercy of your moods. Habits are therefore not just actions, they are the architects of identity, confidence, and momentum. So I want you to ask yourself right now, what habits are carrying you forward? Which ones are holding you back? Which habits can you create today that will produce massive leverage over time? And I want you to think about sustainability. Start small, focus on consistency, repeat daily, and make them non-negotiable. Because it's the habits that operate quietly in the background that create extraordinary lives, not bursts of inspiration or fleeting motivation. The people who achieve the most, the people who create the greatest impact, the ones who build habits that outlast their highs and lows. They understand that life is a marathon, not a sprint, and that the secret to enduring success is embedded in the daily rituals, routines, and standards they follow regardless of how they feel. That's what keeps them moving forward, keeps them growing, and keeps them unstoppable. Remember this: moods come and go, motivation rises and falls, but habits endure. Build habits that outlast highs and lows. You will create a life that cannot be derailed. Turn moods into fuel, not the foundation. This is where most people get it wrong. They wake up and think, if I feel good, I'll take action. If I don't feel good, I'll wait. But here's the truth. Your moods are temporary. They are powerful, yes, but they are unreliable. You cannot build a life, a career, or a future on something that changes from moment to moment. Yet the people who succeed at the highest levels don't ignore their emotions. They harness them. They use them as fuel to accelerate their journey, while the real engine of their progress is built on strategy, discipline, clarity, and habits. That's the distinction between those who chase feelings and those who create results. Think about a car. Fuel makes the car move faster, more efficiently, and with more power. But fuel alone does not create direction. If you pour gas on a car that isn't steering properly, it will crash. Your moods are like the fuel. They amplify your actions, but they cannot replace direction. Strategy, clarity, discipline, and habits are the steering, the wheels, the engine. You combine them with the energy from your moods. You accelerate toward results exponentially. But if you try to rely solely on moods, your life will spin out of control, and you'll constantly be chasing highs without ever building lasting momentum. Here's the real power of using moods as fuel. When you're in a positive state, you can leverage it to accomplish more in less time. Your energy is high, your creativity flows, and your focus is sharper. You can take big leaps because you have extra power behind your actions. But the key is recognizing that this is bonus energy, not the main source. The main source, the foundation, is the system you've created to succeed regardless of how you feel. That's where real results come from. That's where unstoppable momentum lives. Most people never learn to do this. They wake up in a good mood and think, I'll do amazing things today. But when the mood fades, so does their drive. They wake up in a bad mood and immediately make excuses. But high performers understand something crucial. Moods are inputs, not instructions. You observe them, you interpret them, you harness them, and then you act in alignment with your vision and your strategy regardless of the current state. That is where mastery lies. Let me illustrate this with an example. Imagine an entrepreneur building a business. On some days, they feel inspired and motivated, full of energy and ideas. On those days, they move quickly, innovate, and solve problems creatively. On other days, they feel discouraged, overwhelmed, or uncertain. If they rely solely on mood, The days of low energy become stagnation, setbacks, and lost opportunities. But if they use the high energy days as fuel to accelerate, and the low energy days as days to follow disciplined systems, track progress, and make steady action, they continue moving forward. The fuel of mood amplifies progress, but the engine of strategy keeps them moving regardless. The same applies to personal growth, relationships, health, and every other area of life. Moods can ignite enthusiasm for a workout, important conversation, or a creative project. But discipline, habits, and clarity make sure that the workout happens consistently, the conversations happen even when they feel uncomfortable, and the creative work continues even when motivation is absent. That combination is what produces results that last. That combination is what separates those who live reactive lives from those who create lives of impact. And here's the secret most people miss: when you use moods as fuel, you begin to see emotions differently. You stop labeling them as good or bad. You stop letting a temporary low define your worth or potential. You start seeing each emotional state as an input, a signal that can be harnessed for progress. Excitement becomes energy, frustration becomes clarity, fear becomes courage, and even sadness can reveal areas that need attention and growth. Every state becomes useful because you no longer let it dictate your actions. You leverage it to enhance performance. This is where the synergy of all the previous keys comes into play. Strategy ensures that every action you take aligns with your vision. Discipline ensures that action occurs consistently, even when energy is low. Clarity provides the roadmap, so you know exactly where to go. Habits build the automatic behaviors that compound over time. And moods, they are the fuel that accelerates the journey, but they do not drive it. That's how extraordinary lives are built. That's how people achieve results that most can only dream about. And here's something profound: when you learn to use moods as fuel, you also gain freedom. Freedom from waiting for motivation. Freedom from being held hostage by how you feel. Freedom to act, to create, and to move forward, even in the face of challenges, setbacks, or uncertainty. Because you understand the principle: moods amplify action, they do not replace it. You have the power to act independent of your emotional state. That power changes everything. Now, most people never take this seriously because they misunderstand emotions. They treat highs as permissions and lows as prohibitions. They feel good and think they can achieve. They feel bad and think they must pause. Mastery comes when you see the truth. You can act regardless of mood. You can take consistent steps, follow your strategy, and honor your habits, and the results will compound over time. The good moods make the ride faster. The disciplined systems keep the car moving no matter what. So I want you to reflect: how often have you let a temporary mood dictate whether you acted or delayed, whether you showed up or held back? How much potential have you left untapped because you waited for a high energy day that may never come? And now imagine flipping the script, treating every emotion as fuel, not the foundation. Treating each feeling as a way to accelerate, relying on your strategy, discipline, clarity, and habits to sustain action. That shift alone can change everything about your results, your confidence, and your trajectory in life. When you truly internalize this, life becomes less chaotic and more empowering. You stop being a passenger tossed around by emotional waves. You become the driver, leveraging every surge of energy, every spark of excitement, every challenge, every frustration to fuel your journey. You act, you progress, you grow, and nothing can derail you, because the foundation of your success is not a mood. It's the systems, structures, and choices you've committed to in advance. The mood simply makes the ride faster, smoother, and more enjoyable. So remember this: a good mood is powerful, but it is not the plan. It is not the strategy. It is not the engine of your life. Use it as fuel, yes, but let your actions, your consistency, your habits, your clarity, and your discipline be the foundation. You do that, you are no longer at the mercy of how you feel. You are unstoppable.